Story 1. I am as grumpy as the people I used to mock. Story 2. How boring I've become. I used to be so goofy. I take life too seriously now. I am trying to find my way back. Story 3. I can grow facial hair that thick? Honorable mention. I can get a girlfriend? Story 4. She would be more interested in the time travel aspect and probably not care about the person in front of her at all. Laughing out loud. Proper little nerd. Story 5. She would probably be extremely disappointed in the person she became. I know I am. Story 6. Honestly, my size would be surprising. I was a tiny 13-year-old girl, very thin and short. Now I am a 5'9" woman and somewhat muscular. The dyed hair, piercings, and overall alternative style would probably be a surprise as well. Laughing out loud. Story 7. I actually made it through everything I thought would destroy me back then. Story 8. At 13, I was depressed and suicidal, without any hope, living with an abusive family while child services refused to help. Poverty, mental illness, and addiction surrounded me. I later ran away from home at 16. I am now 35, living in a major city with 2 college degrees, earning 6 figures in a secure job with a government pension. I have no contact with my family and have improved my mental health through therapy and medication. I also recently had a tubal ligation and am child-free to ensure that the generational trauma ends with me. Story 9. I am comfortable with my body. I used to have a serious eating disorder, and now I am healthy and happy. Story 10. My 13-year-old self would be shocked that I survived adulting and still eat ice cream for breakfast. Story 11. There is the skirt and the fact that I am wearing many colors. The nail polish is not black, which might surprise them. Story 12. I'm gay, transgender, and non-binary, and not at all like my father. When I was younger, I was very homophobic and mean like him. Story 13. My father, who died when I was 13, would have been shocked that I ended up in foster care and later in transitional housing, depending on when during my 13th year my former self met me. Story 14. 13-year-old conservative Republican me would be shocked that I turned out to be an educated, bleeding heart liberal. I grew up in a very religious Republican family in a small, mostly white Christian town. The school district was almost entirely white except for one adopted African-American child. I was only exposed to conservative ways of thinking. The word communist was treated like a swear word in my house. I was not allowed to watch movies with actors who expressed anti-gun views. I am ashamed to admit I was racist and homophobic because I did not know any better. I joined the military and made friends of all races and sexual orientations. I was sent to Iraq in 2003 and began questioning everything. I heard soldiers who identified as Christian bragging about killing Iraqis and using derogatory language. It was eye-opening. I left the military, went to college, and was exposed to new ways of thinking, mainly critical thinking. I am a completely different person now. It made me realize how people become the way they are if they are never exposed to anything outside their bubbles and never leave their hometowns. Story 15. That was worse than I imagined, and the bar was already very low. Story 16. I became a responsible, highly successful member of society. I was so afraid of everything that anxiety was my chief emotion. Still is, but I did things anyway. Story 17. I think I'd be pretty impressed. The fact I survived to 63 is mind-boggling. I had quite a few close calls by the age of 13. Story 18. They would be shocked that we turned out crippled. That is for damn sure. Story 19. My 13-year-old self would be blown away by how much I have changed. The idea of having a steady job and paying bills would totally freak me out. Story 20. She would be shocked to see her 20-year-old self transitioned into a man and that he is on his way to earning a degree, although going to university felt pointless back then. To be honest, it is quite a good change. It could have been much worse considering how much I hated school. Story 21. People used to say I'd never go bald. Every time I got a haircut when I was younger, they'd say, "Oh, your hair is so thick, you'll never go bald." Story 22. That I did not take my own life. Honestly, I regret it. Edited to add, downvote all you want. It is still my truth. I'm sorry you are feeling this way. If you are thinking about harming yourself or are in immediate danger, please contact local emergency services right now. In the United States, you can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you are outside the United States, please contact your local emergency number or your nearest crisis line. If you would like, I can help you find resources or someone to talk to. Story 23. I would be extremely shocked that my teeth are fixed and my wife is attractive. Story 24. My health is poor. I am fully disabled and almost housebound. Although there were signs back then that something was not right, no one had any idea where it was headed. Story 25. I am not married and have never had a real romantic relationship. She would be devastated and I would be as well, to be honest. I grew up on romantic comedies and always assumed some man would sweep me off my feet. But alas. Story 26. I speak French fluently. I hated learning it at the time. Story 27. I was 162 centimeters tall, 5 feet 3 inches, and now I am 194 centimeters tall, 6 feet 3 inches. My friends said my final height would be 175 centimeters. Story 28. My family considers me a total failure in life. I have no children or family of my own, a median-income blue-collar job, rent an apartment rather than own a house, no realistic romantic prospects, no vacations or travel to speak of, and no notable academic or professional accomplishments. Story 29. He would be blown away by how cool my wife is and by the fact that I have 3 dogs and 2 horses. Story 30. I'm marrying the same woman I had children with. I knew I loved her then, but I never imagined we would get back together after I moved. Story 31. I am muscular now and have a mustache in the same style my grandfather had. Story 32. My girlfriend is the hot redhead of her friend group. I am a working artist, technically doing freelance. Story 33. I am confident now and can handle people calling me names or being mean because it does not matter in the grand scheme of things. I wish I had been as confident and outspoken then as I am now. Story 34. Being alive is difficult. I thought about ending my life years ago. Now I live in an office, I am poor, and I work 50 hours a week. I resent myself for not having done it earlier. I'm sorry you're feeling this way. If you are in immediate danger, please call emergency services now, for example, 911 in the United States. If you are in the US, you can call or text 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. In the UK and Ireland, contact Samaritans at 116 123. In Australia, Lifeline is 13 11 14. If you are elsewhere, please contact your local emergency number or a local crisis line. If you want, I can help rework this text further, find resources, or just listen. Story 35. He is unhappy in the life he dreamed of because his dreams were too small. Story 36. I am older than my father, overweight, single, and not doing well. Story 37. I had the courage to walk away from my abusive mother and endure near homelessness to build a better life. Although I still feel anger and hate in my heart, I am no longer ruled by those feelings, and I channel them into my love of cooking and into self-improvement. Story 38. I wasn't really interested in musicals at that age. Now I'm into musical theater. I've paid to see Broadway shows and have been in community theater. Story 39. When I was 13, the September 11, 2001 attacks happened. I was in a military family and drew pictures of eagles shooting jets out of their wings at terrorists in Afghanistan. I am against the 20-year war and wrote a thesis arguing that no United States wars have been justified since World War II. I am a pro-Palestine pacifist and I am really economically liberal now. Story 40. I am fat and bald, not working as a creative, and living on the same block I grew up on. But most of all, I am really good with all of that. Story 41. I left Florida and repaired my relationship with my parents. Story 42. How much I have gone through between 2019 and now. I was 13 in 2016. Story 43. How did I end up marrying that girl from a parallel class whom I did not like? We were together for 35 years and have 2 children. Story 44. I am fluent in English and I am living and working in an English-speaking country. At the age of 13, I had 1 year of English study at a very basic level. For example, the sentence "Kevin is in the kitchen." I do not live in a big city but in a small town. As a child, I lived in Paris for 10 years and I could not wait to move to a bigger city. I would rather have a 5-minute commute, more than 12 square meters of living space, and affordable food. Story 45. I weigh over 200 pounds. I was only 65 pounds at 13. I graduated high school at 6 feet 3 inches and 135 pounds. I am now 6 feet 7 inches and 210 pounds. I grew 4 inches in college. Story 46. The fact that I have grown and learned so much in a short period of time. Story 47. I had achieved everything that once seemed like a dream, and I had even completely shaved my head. Story 48. When I was 13, I had a huge ego and thought that one day I would grow up to be very attractive and popular. I was wrong, but I like being myself better. Story 49. I am still alive and, in fact, a gay man in a female body. Story 50. What do you mean you are still living with our parents at 21? Aren't you supposed to have a life by 18? Story 51. To be fair, nothing. I had the idea that I was doomed because I might be aware of my surroundings and context. I think they will be disappointed that I could not achieve a better result. Story 52. I give very few fucks now. I still care a little, but much less than I did back then. If I want to wear a purple or pink shirt, I'll do it. Sing horribly while I vacuum at work? You bet. Shave my head? Why not? I used to care so much about being cool or normal, but now I just care about being myself. Of course, I still maintain a bit of an image. I'm not dancing in the backyard in my underwear while it's raining, though these summers have had me considering it a few times. Story 53. It would probably go like, "You're how old? Do people really get to that age? I'm not that old. How old do you think your grandparents are? A couple were still alive then. I don't know, like 30. Story 54. I sell content and feel I have little dignity left. It helped me pay my mother's debt and support my family, so I am sad. Story 55. Even though I did not think I would make it past being homeless at 17, I have become my own dream girl. Everything my 13-year-old emo self always wanted. Story 56. I struggle with addiction. I was once vehemently against all substances, from nicotine to cannabis to alcohol and beyond. I became too fond of substances and am now desperately trying to quit alcohol and nicotine. I have quit cannabis and opiates, though. Story 57. My skin is clear. 90% of my body is free of eczema. I have less physical pain. I can use scented lotions and perfumes now. I think she would be happy about that. Story 58. I am not only alive but want to keep living. I have finally started taking care of my health. I am married to someone who treats me well and respects me. I have a child, and I have broken the cycle of abuse. Story 59. When I was 13, I hated myself. I was overweight, uncoordinated, nerdy, and body dysmorphic. I thought I was a freak. I figured I would never amount to anything and that I would never be able to attract a partner. Now I am a senior. I have been with more beautiful women than I can count. I have been independently wealthy for decades. I have a beautiful wife who adores me. We have been together for over 20 years. I have a villa in the South Pacific. Who would have thought? Story 60. He wonders what has not changed. Whether he will lose the girlfriend he loves, and whether he will not get the job he wants. But I think the first thing he asked was how I can time travel. Story 61. I am 18 now, and the 13-year-old me would be shocked that I am still alive. Story 62. I have been married to the same girlfriend I met when I was 13 for 10 years. Story 63. I speak English quite well. It is my second language. Story 64. Is this the life you wanted to have? What happened to your dream of being a disc jockey with your best friends? Story 65. It is probably because I grew a beard, have tattoos, and go to the gym. That was all I wanted as a 13-year-old, and he will be shocked that we actually did it. I hated school and still do, so he will also be surprised that I am in my final year of a bachelor's degree. Story 66. How confident am I in being my true self regarding my sexuality and body image? Story 67. I married and divorced quickly. I have no hair by choice. The people and friends I swore I would be with have been absent for over a decade. I am standing on my own despite what our family said. I stuck to my convictions and am being who we wanted to be in certain ways. I willingly gave up one dream to pursue another that I found more fitting. I grew stronger than I thought I could be. He would also call me a bitch for letting things affect me, something I had sworn would never happen. Story 68. I am not a radiologist. I probably did not want children back then because I thought I would be a bad mother. Story 69. This probably shows how little I care about changing the world. I just want to make enough money to feed my family and enjoy some hobbies. I used to dislike people like that, but I understand now. Just pay me and let me do my work. Story 70. I am married, still in my hometown and somehow still in college, but she would be over the moon that I have 3 cats. Story 71. I achieved nothing and failed at all the goals I set. Now I am struggling, wasting my life playing games and drinking in my early 20s, half hoping I lose my life before 40. If I can re-enlist and get a steady paycheck with food support and leave the awful state I live in, I might be a little happier. If not, I will become a flight attendant. I'm sorry you are feeling this way. If you are thinking about harming yourself or have a plan, please contact emergency services or a crisis line right now. In the United States, call or text 988. If you are elsewhere, contact your local emergency number or local crisis resources. If you want, I can help find support or talk through options. Story 72. God, so much has happened. I'm still alive at 32. I somehow lost the weight. I cultivated a life I'm proud of. A life that is truly mine after all the bullshit I went through. My 13-year-old self would be genuinely shocked at what I've achieved. He'd be surprised that at 32 I'm the person who would have protected him. Story 73. We are, in fact, married to that man with a bunch of animal children. Story 74. It's amazing how much trauma I have endured throughout my life, from before that age, and that I am still suffering now. I am much better at dealing with it than I was when I was younger. I also recall taking that first drag and hit and seeing how much I had to go through to come out on the other side. Story 75. It is ironic that I had the courage to transition from male to female. Story 76. We just turned 24 this week. We did not even think 20 was going to be an option. Story 77. How happy I've become with life and the way I handle stressful situations. Story 78. Not only am I alive, but I have started my own little family. I think if my 13-year-old self saw me now with my daughter, he would break down in tears. Story 79. That they become a desk jockey working a heavily public-facing job with visible piercings at more than twice their age and have a wonderful, supportive, and caring partner. I was extremely shy and introverted and hated the idea of people thinking of me as different and standing out. Story 80. I did not get killed because I lack a filter between my brain and my mouth. Story 81. How goddamn skinny I am. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease at age 15 and lost 20 kilograms. I used to be chubby when I was 13. Now I am very slim. My past self would definitely be shocked. Story 82. I have been moving between passive and active suicidal thoughts since I can remember, possibly from the age of 5. The idea of surviving another 20 years would blow my mind. I would not believe it for a moment. Story 83. The fact that I'm gay and have a girlfriend makes me laugh out loud. I was internally homophobic. I would be horrified. Story 84. That I have sex with a man in his 50s because I am also in my 50s. Story 85. I am bisexual. I had a complicated relationship with my sexuality as a teenager, and not in the typical way where many men resist being labeled gay. For me, it was the opposite. I did not feel gay enough, and I worried it would feel like stolen valor to call myself bisexual. I eventually got over it, but for a while I insisted I was straight because I felt I did not qualify, as if you had to earn your place in the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community. I am also much more extreme in my libertarian views than I was back then. I used to be a moderate liberal in the classical sense, favoring small government and social liberalism while being conservative on other issues. In college, I became an anarcho-capitalist after reading Murray Rothbard. Story 86. I would still have most of the same friends 13 years after I met them. I am actually pretty good with people now and connect easily. I found the confidence to be independent and built courage. I was once the most terrified, anxious, and depressed girl. She would be so proud. This is not to say I am never anxious, depressed, or socially awkward. Story 87. I am bald and very happy with a wonderful wife and two mostly great children. Story 88. I left my testicles hanging out of the flap of my underwear. To be fair, that would probably shock anyone. Story 89. I helped create a commercially remastered version of a game they owned when they were 10. Story 90. That I'm a depressed, poor, and lifeless blob with no friends. Story 91. Remember that you can get just about every material thing life has to offer, and it will not compare to the happiness your new son will bring you. Story 92. I worry less now, but I would probably still be someone he would like. I had decent goals for myself, and even though I did not reach all of them, the ones I did achieve are good. He would still be supportive of my differences since I was a remarkable 13-year-old. Story 93. I can talk to strangers, especially women, without turning red or stuttering over half of my words, laughing out loud. Story 94. 1. I'm still alive. 2. We married a mature, attractive woman. 3. We live in our own place decorated with our favorite things. Story 95. My 13-year-old self would ask what he should do. I would tell him not to worry. Everything will be fine. Story 96. I am in a 6-year relationship with the guy who was in all my classes, who once had a crush on me and who became a close friend. We met when I was 11. I am 25 now. Story 97. Wait, you made new friends and haven't had any suicidal thoughts? By the way, I was 13 last year. Story 98. You still fuck yourself daily? I thought I'd be over that by your age. Story 99. I am married and have a child. I never planned to get married or to have children. Story 100. People probably notice that I lost so much weight and that my head is shaved. They also notice that I finally have friends for the first time in my life and that I left my horrible ex. Story 101. I do not even remember being 13. That was a really long time ago. It was probably when I was still being bullied for liking Star Trek. I would show my 13-year-old self my Star Trek handbag and tell them that my longest friendship began because of a mutual love of Star Trek and to avoid getting too hopeful about the state of geopolitics, because by the time I reached my current age, Russia would be the enemy again, nothing would be resolved between Israel and Palestine, and the United States would be in the process of collapsing. Story 102. It is probably a tie between what I do for work and how many tattoos I have accumulated over the years. Story 103. I probably haven't aged much and am not yet an older adult. Story 104. I was truly able to lose a lot of weight. Back then, the concept of calories and nutrition was never in my mind. I thought once you were fat, that was your body. Story 105. Probably that I survived adulthood without a manual and that I'm actually into vegetables now. 13-year-old me would be shocked. Story 106. I still can't believe I haven't earned my bachelor's degree yet. Come on, self, that's disappointing. Story 107. I got married, which means I must have had sex at least once. I also have video games I don't play and books I haven't read. Story 108. My lack of hair and my height. I was very short until I was about 16. Story 109. I am a liberal and an advocate for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer or questioning, intersex, asexual, and other sexual and gender minority rights, and I am still a Christian. Story 110. I make a living providing remote personal computer technical support, working with 3 monitors. The first personal computer came out the year I was 13. They did not catch on for a few years, though. Story 111. Why and how am I struggling academically? Why have I not found a partner or girlfriend yet? Why have I almost stopped playing chess? Why do I not read books? Where has my confidence gone? Story 112. I'm not helpless or incompetent, and people can enjoy my company. Story 113. That I ended up marrying her would be a pleasant surprise. Story 114. I am still alive. I am engaged. My first love, and I did not make it. I am doing better. I am no longer Christian, and I smoke marijuana, drink alcohol, and have sex. Story 115. Why are you so fat? Why are you okay with looking like this? I'm not fat, you little shit. I have body dysmorphic disorder. Story 116. My closeted, persistent sexual desire and lax religious beliefs. Sorry to disappoint you, kid. Story 117. That I will lose and regain the same 75 pounds 8 times in 10 years. Story 118. I am not 50 yet, but I have a head full of gray hair. I always dyed it like my mother did and never thought I would grow it out. Story 119. Either I am fat or bald. Probably the former, even though I was super skinny. Story 120. Everything. I could never have seen this shit coming. Cannot believe it, bro. Story 121. I lack hair, even though my father had a full head of hair when he died at 84. Story 122. It could be that I am the same weight as him, that girls do not think I am a creep anymore, or that I can play Kingdom Hearts 2 on a handheld. Story 123. I am not a multimillionaire, astronaut, running back, or superhero. Story 124. I am a stay-at-home mom instead of having a successful career in the medical field. I had not wanted children and had dreamed of becoming a medical examiner. Story 125. I am not a millionaire living in a huge mansion with my wife, children, and dogs. Story 126. He would be disappointed that I am not a concert pianist and even more so that I did not quit piano to become a famous rock star. Luckily, I do not care what that little virgin thinks. I'm happy as I am. Damn it. Story 127. No matter how old I am, when I was 13, a man who was almost 79 had one foot in the grave and one on a banana peel. Now I feel I have a lot more living to do. Story 128. I married a gorgeous woman and get to play with computers for a living. Story 129. She'd be very pissed that I'm married. Growing up, I never wanted to be married. My parents fought and it was awful. They separated when I was pretty young, but I still remember the fights. My mom was my best friend, and when she wasn't around my father, she just glowed. She didn't need any man, and she was so good at being a single mom. For what it's worth, she never told me not to get married or to hate men. She was just so happy and carefree. Her actions and demeanor spoke for themselves. So yeah, I'd probably be pissed about that. However, my husband is great. He's kind and more patient than anyone I have ever met. Truthfully, I have never met anyone more genuinely good than he is. He could put Superman to shame. He's also very attractive. Even as he ages, it's unreal how good-looking he is. I'd probably also be pissed that I wasn't meaner. I severely lacked emotional breadth growing up. I was outgoing in student government and played a lot of sports. I was nice to my closest friends and significant others and when it benefited me, but otherwise I tended to hold back. I look back and wonder if people thought I was sociopathic. I met my husband and started working with people with disabilities. Between the two, it really melted away my exterior. No matter where I was kind of forced to be a kinder and softer person. The day I decided to change my major from business management to public and human services, I had a full-blown meltdown. Felt like a complete loss of self, but I knew it was what I ultimately wanted. So I'd be very confused and would probably need several hours to explain it. Even then, 13-year-old me would probably tell 33-year-old me to fuck right off. Story 130. I was able to buy a home by age 30 and build a successful career that began with tinkering on computers. Owning a home seemed impossible when I was a teenager. Story 131. I lost weight. I have always been a chubby kid, but it got worse when I was 15, when I weighed 80 kilograms or 170 pounds at a height of 5 feet 4 inches. I struggled a lot with depression and many other issues, so I would always eat my feelings away. However, this year I finally addressed it, and as of November I have lost 15 kilograms. I'm still working on it, but I really wish I could just hug her. Story 132. I read books on my devices instead of physical books. I do not have children. When I was 13, I really wanted to be a mother someday. I still do, but it has not happened yet. I talk to many people frequently. Story 133. My outlook on life, happiness, and success is shaped by the fact that I teach mathematics. I hated mathematics in middle school. Story 134. I am still the same and have managed to hide in plain sight. Story 135. I actually have children, which means I found a partner and became a parent. Go me. Story 136. He would wonder why I'm still fat and not making a living. Story 137. Look how out of shape I let myself get. I used to tease my dad about his spare tire, and he would say, "It will happen to you too." Well, I guess he was right. Story 138. I wanted to go into design and programming, but I became a chef, and my friend who wanted to own a restaurant is now working at a game studio. Story 139. She would be shocked at how miserable I am with my life because I have everything she ever wanted. A husband, a house, and 2 amazing children. Story 140. My height for sure. I was not tall at 13. I was 5 feet 6 inches. I am 6 feet 4 inches now and still do not think I am that tall. Story 141. I can hold babies and change diapers without gagging. Story 142. I am with the girl I had a crush on in middle school, 25 years later, and happiness can be real. Story 143. I now have sex with many beautiful women and am considered a great catch. As a child and later a teenager, I was very lonely and was picked on a lot. As I grew older and more confident, people took notice and things worked out wonderfully. Vindication. Story 144. I am still here and I work on film sets and shoot fashion as he always wanted me to. I am still trying to get into Vogue. Story 145. I have been in a relationship for years. I was such an awkward kid. Story 146. I am still in school. 13-year-old me thought I would be done by now. No, girl, you decided to do a 3-year Master of Arts program. You will be done by 26, though. Story 147. I'm not dead. He was determined to die unless his living conditions changed. Story 148. She would ask why, if I am still alive, I do not run the universe yet. Story 149. I am alive. I had a major glow-up. I still listen to Fall Out Boy and have an unhealthy obsession with roller coasters. Laughing my ass off. Story 150. I'd probably freak out that I'm still a kid at heart, but I'm wearing a hoodie that actually fits 2 sizes smaller than mine. Story 151. I had this thought during a concert on Wednesday. I listen to metalcore, borderline thrash metal nowadays, loud, heavy, screaming. I kept giggling at the show and my boyfriend kept asking why. I thought, you do not get it. Childhood me would be horrified by my music, but I somehow love it so much. Story 152. I work in video games, I have a gorgeous wife, and I have more Warhammer than I know what to do with. A 13-year-old would be thrilled. Story 153. I struggle daily, and I also have many lovely things. There is a lot of contrast. Story 154. I have access to literally all the music in the world, but I choose to listen to podcasts. Story 155. You have a wife and kids, and you're still alive? Story 156. Clearly, he would know why we didn't have friends and why we struggled with being normal. Yes, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, predominantly inattentive presentation, is challenging. Story 157. You can go to the store and buy cannabis. There are billboards everywhere. Story 158. I am married, have 2 grown-up, well-adjusted children, a stable job, 2 holidays a year, a car paid for outright, and a comfortable home. These are all things I never thought I would have. Story 159. Before my dad started abusing me, he would have been surprised by how cynical, jaded, burnt out, nihilistic, and misanthropic I had become. After, he would understand and see it as inevitable. Story 160. Either that I no longer need glasses or that I am now a pagan and a druid rather than a Christian. Story 161. Definitely the I do not care attitude. Oh my goodness. This question is triggering because I really wish that poor little girl knew it was okay to fight back. But all's well that ends well. Story 162. I don't chase perfection anymore. At 13, everything felt like a competition, and I had to prove my worth all the time. Now I'm quietly doing my own thing, and I think she would find that strangely inspiring. Story 163. We no longer hate ourselves. In fact, we love ourselves more than anything or anyone. Story 164. I am learning Japanese. I used to dislike anime. I am more neutral now. I am no longer Muslim. I have a full beard. My elementary school teacher was right. I became a scientist. One particular t-shirt still fits me. Story 165. Someone said that sexual activity with women sounds unappealing and that they would never use hard drugs. I am sexually active now and quit a year-long cocaine habit a few years ago. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.